Hello, dear lurkers, and welcome back to the Third Age Barrel on Fire podcast. We are all back, all the three of us together. So before we continue, we are gonna return to one of our oldest traditions in this podcast. We are gonna answer any random question, all three of us. And the question for today is, what silly little thing we cannot live without? Who wants to start?
Okay, since I was missing the last episode, I just go in. I have something like a shoulder pillow when I'm sleeping because mostly I sleep on my belly. And I have this tiny little pillow that I put under one of my shoulders because otherwise my brain thinks I do not get enough air. It's stupid as hell. It doesn't work that way. I mean, I could breathe perfectly fine without it, but for some reason, my brain, it's more of my brain that needs this one.
I think that makes perfect sense. As someone who has asthma, I also cannot deal with certain positions my back is in, although it shouldn't be that way, but it makes perfect sense, yeah. So I can go next because I think it's a kind of a similar thing, but something that I cannot live without is my hot water bottle. So I need a hot water bottle anywhere where I expect to sleep. So I take a hot water bottle whenever I go traveling, wherever I go. I even bought like a little traveling kettle so that I can always have 80-degree hot water wherever I am. I've even used it when I was on a ship overnight because without these things, I cannot live. And if I cannot have a hot water bottle, I need these these warm pillows that you can just that you can reuse. You just click and then it gets hot. Because whenever I need to rest, it's like I need to tell my body, so okay, now we are resting, now we are sleeping, because otherwise I'm left everywhere all over the place. Yeah.
Yeah,
I like.
I just realized that the thing that I had selected doesn't qualify in the same category because I didn't use it as often. But I was gonna go with my Polaroid camera because I've noticed that like any important place in like my daily routine, I've taken it at some point and made some photos, and they are always around me somewhere. So I have this as like making a place feeling like home. I decorated a little bit with that.
I don't think that's silly. It's quite cute, actually.
None of these were particular. If it helps you sleep, I don't think you can call it silly. I think that it's just very necessary.
Well, I don't know. I mean, if we are going with your logic, I would have, of course, taken pick my real Canon camera because I photograph every day. But I just thought silly of these like little luxury things that you need for your own well-being, but you should be able to live without, but you kind of can't. So you really need it. Like I was thinking about that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. I mean, okay, now I have to summarize the episode. Like, oh god, another time. Like for any people, all the people who didn't watch our last episode, I'm in another window here now because I live at the other end of Germany right now, and I'm doing an internship and working 50, 60 hours a week. So but I can do the summary. I can. So in this episode, there are people on the station who start to behave weirdly. You can put it that way. I mean, for science fiction, that's always a weird start for a story, but you can say that. So there are people who start acting weirdly, and then our main characters begin to figure out that there's like a kind of like parasite kind of species taking over people, and the question is it really like a parasite abducting people and using them, or is it more like kind of a complex relationship? So especially with Marcus and friends, and we have this kind of thing going on that they want to figure out what that is actually. And that we also have few funny little side plots, especially we see Susan going on a maybe date. Yeah, it definitely is an episode that has like these two very different things. We have like this big mystery where we also get like a hint in the end, I think, on the bigger world building things going on that we still in this part of the show haven't really understood yet. And then we have this whole Sweden thing, which I was actually much more invested in because yeah, anyway. I think that was my summary for today. Was that acceptable?
No, that's sure. That those are all things that happen in this episode for sure.
Okay. So, time for first impressions. Mikey, you have to start.
um, I'm not really sure how I should feel about this episode because it was quite short-lived for me. Um, and it didn't really feel like there was a threat for me. Um, it, yeah, I don't know. Layla, you wrote, oh, this is the gold episode, which is quite descriptive, but there is no malice. There is no. It doesn't really feel like a threat to me. We have this moment in the beginning where we see this parasite attachment happening and going wrong, but there wasn't really some feeling for me in this because there was no build up to this, so it was rather random. And so another guy dead, who cares? And then it goes everywhere. We have nothing really unsettling. It's more like it feels a bit more like a feel good episode to me, especially the whole thing with Marcus and Franklin. I mean, okay, it is problematic that people behave weird, that people are dying because of these parasites, but I'm sort of missing the connection there to really feel horrid or anything about this. The drama is off in these situations. Maybe it is also problem of point of view, that if the whole episode would have been told from a different angle, it would have been more intense. But since this is completely missing, and we have this let's say fun moments with Marcus and Franklin, with Susan and this newly appointed lieutenant from the bridge, the vibe isn't really fitting. I mean, overall, I like the episode, but for the horror part that could have been in there, that felt rather short in comparison.
This is interesting because, also, I can say something in here, right? Because I just really want to pick something up because he's talked about the horror part. And Alex and I had once discussed another aspect of the show in comparison to Stargate, actually, because we had the topic today. And there we also kind of realized that Babylon 5 never really tries to establish this kind of horror. And I mean, it was another aspect of the show that we were talking about. So it was a bit like we were more thinking that it might not have been the intention or the goal to establish this kind of horror. And this show, if it was at any point should have been a horror thing, it really did not work. I can see that. But I also find it kind of funny, actually, that that for you, this episode where parasites take over humans is such an upbeat episode.
Yeah, I'm missing the important emotions in this situation where this is happening, or whether the person is dying, because it feels random. You have no connection to the person. So it's another person dead. Doesn't matter. That's how it feels.
It's definitely a thing worth talking about. I think that these emotional connections that can make up a kind of horror or a kind of fear are not established by the writing. And I think it's a discussion worth to think about whether the writers just failed establishing that or had another goal in mind. Because sometimes in Babylon 5, I think it's on purpose that we don't have that. That's a bigger topic, I think. It's a bigger topic. We can at some point come back to that, I think. So, Alex, do you want to continue with your impression?
I love the description of this as a feel good episode. And I think it's an interesting discussion to have how intentional this is or not. I think, Meike, you have kind of adopted a very Garibaldi perspective on this entire episode, because he exactly goes in this direction. Somebody is weird with the lurkers down below. In general, I find it really cool that, especially for our podcast, this is really a lurkers episode. We spend a lot of time down below at this time, so that's nice. I think for the longest time I had a very similar reaction to you, Meike, where this episode felt like it was very, very short-lived. It's not really one that I usually look forward to. This time around, I think I found a little bit of a thread, but it's also very possible that I'm just massively reaching here. But it feels to me like there is a common theme about appearances and how that can be kind of an issue, because you have the Vindrisi, these like weird alien parasites that I think are trying to do a good thing, right? They're trying to preserve knowledge and help these poor people, but they're also weird, slimy space bugs. So to everyone around, it looks like they're this Goa'uld style threat. And then on the flip side, we have the situation with Corwin where, oh, it's great that he gets this promotion, but now we really got to think about how do we rope him in or like test the waters. And it's kind of this thing where our crew tries to be good. They're trying to do a good thing, like working against Clark and fixing Earth. But obviously, to somebody like Corwin from the outside, it looks really bad because it's a bunch of military people conspiring against the government. That's usually how coups start. And then there's even this entire misunderstanding about the dating, right? You buy some flowers and then you're embarrassed about it, but then she actually likes those flowers and then she wants to give them back, but she thinks they're from Marcus. So in all of these plots, there is this element of, oh, misunderstandings and appearances being difficult. And I wonder if that is an intentional thing, because other than that, all of these plots feel very disconnected. What I will say is this. Go ahead.
If it is an intentional thing to draw the similarities between a misunderstood kind of date going awkward and the parasite taking over my body, I have questions.
Listen, the way that Ivanova reacts in the end, it does seem like she feels about it similar to Parasite. She seems very, very unhappy about this. But I did like that we spent a substantial amount of time with Marcus in this episode, and I think this goes a long way also to make this feel like a feel-good episode, because yes, people are dying, and he is very concerned about this, but he is like, he's reciting poetry while he's down below talking to his friends and stuff. He's really treating this like a D&D adventure more than a crime scene, and I think this thread really goes through.
I mean, and after you just said this with the whole misunderstanding idea as a baseline for the episode, I would say that is matching, or you could make it work. But it still doesn't take away from me the problematic or the non-emotional approach on the parasites in the episode. But okay, maybe we should start in the beginning with the episode.
Wait, I didn't say my first impressions yet. Oh, I waited until the end. Yeah, and but I have to say that I'm totally overtired right now. So right now I watched that episode while eating, and it was rather on the side actually. But yeah, I remember that I love this whole soon I have to take one of the earbuds that is clinky. Yeah, I have a flatmate living next door actually. So okay. Then I think now I realize better how old I am. So I actually I love the whole plot with Susan and her date or him on date or whatever. I think it's super funny. Also, I think it's super funny to just see her react or interact to both her assumption about Marcus as well as what is the new lieutenant called again?
Lieutenant Corwin.
Colin, yeah. I love that. Each time I rewatch the show, I wait for this moment. And to the other parasite thing, threat thing going on. Well, yeah, and Mike is right. It did not cause strong emotions. Like I never actually assumed that there would be like a real threat um, to Marcus or to Franklin. But it had like other times when I watched the episode, not right now. Other times when I watched that episode, it had like a kind of spiritual quality to me actually, to see this movement starting in down below the locus actually, because I don't know, it felt like such a weird thing happening down there, but then in the end there's this weird key moment where you feel like all of this happens for a reason and you learn something about the universe. And it was only short moments, but it had this quality for me that kinda made it worth it watching. Okay, sorry, I totally confused you right now. yeah, that were my first impressions. Maybe now we can start just really discussing the apps,
I
if you don't mind.
I like the spirituality angle, but we maybe as we go through it, it will click a little bit more for me. But where do we want to start?
Yeah, I mean, maybe if we go through it, it will click, but maybe it won't click. And like, that we will. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the big mystery and with the parasites, or do you want to start with the dating and Susan it? The literary dating with Susan.
Yeah, I would say let's go with the dating part because I think we're hooked on that a little less longer
Yeah.
than the other plot.
Okay.
I mean, maybe we can just start by acknowledging how great it is that Lieutenant Colvin is getting an actual role in an episode. He's been here for so long just as an extra, and I do love the detail that they throw in that he hates being the center of attention because for so long it's been literally his job to be just kind of furniture in the background, and now he has to do all of those. I like that. I think this is also adding for me to this feel good cozy episode because command staff sitting at the bar and like watching as they like other ranks celebrate that somebody got a promotion and stuff. This feels very much like, again, we're on Babylon 5, the sitcom, where we root for the guy to get his better job payment and stuff, and not dealing with the cosmic horrors out there. So that's just nice to see.
Yeah, it's really soft and entertaining start at that point. So it rolls in nicely.
It's great that none of our characters are aware that they are in a sitcom, because I think if Ivanova knew that this is a sitcom episode, she would catch on to the fact that inviting this officer randomly just after his promotion to her quarters to have a private conversation might come across as a very forward invitation. But this does cross her mind once, which I love her for that she has the mission and she wants to do well at the mission, so it doesn't even cross her mind that there could be anything else, and it's great.
If she would have pulled this off a little different, it might have not transpired to what it did. But on the other hand, I mean, it is quite well explained that Corwin is, not a person who gets out a lot and therefore probably is a bit social awkward and has problems of deciphering people's intentions, which I can totally understand. It is can be a hassle. And yeah, but on the other hand, I do not get why he is going all out. I mean, buying flowers would have been okay, but maybe not go for the roses and just for some other not so heavy symbolic choices. So yeah.
I think it's telling that he like entirely relies on the salesman of the flower shop for this decision, and it's a bad decision at that.
Yes, yes. Yeah, and especially then that he doesn't pull through like yeah, I found these. I didn't buy them for you. No, they were lying here at the door. So in the end, yeah, he just chickens out. But overall, I think it matches the idea that about this character of being with a bit socially withdrawn, socially awkward, and overwhelmed with the situation.
I think it's also
Yes.
it's neat because our command crew has this immediate thought of, oh no, he's a higher rank now, he might catch on to our trail about like doing secretive stuff. And then you look at Corvin this episode, and not in a million years would this man figure out anything that is going on. Also because his mind is on so completely other things. He's not thinking constantly about conspiracies about Earthdome. He's excited to go on a date. It's like a nice shift in perspective.
But maybe we can talk about this one serious conversation that he actually has with Susan when he's in her quarters. But before we do that, actually, can we come back to the move of Susan just inviting him over there? Because I was thinking, I don't have a problem with how it is written at all. I think it is natural. But actually, I actually have trust that these moments happen in real life because it's so subtle. But also then in the characters, it becomes such a huge thing. no boundaries are crossed, so nothing happens. I think it's nicely written and totally unproblematic sitcom material. But I was just thinking that it's just that I think what is written into it, maybe I'm interpreting a bit too much into it, but what is written into it actually is that it is still a kind of uncommon situation, at least in the 90s, and I think in these military structures even today, that we are in the situation that a citizen as a woman is inviting a man over to talk about his career and his new position. Because I was thinking just if we switch like age-wise or gender-wise the whole situation over, it's like it would not work at all. So it's really just like this. We have this awkwardness because if it were two men, as for example Sheridan was to invite him over, there would not be this question. If Sheridan was to invite a younger woman over, like he would not do that because he would look like a pervert doing that. So it's literally just, it has this awkwardness of, okay, there's a woman who's outranking him and now everything becomes chaos that should be a business meeting, But I think it was relying on this fact, but it did it in a non-problematic way, I think, because yeah, I like it, but I have to mention this point.
Yeah, and it's great also that it gets resolved without being this massive blowout rejection that's reserved for Marcus in the end. Like you can have this massive misunderstanding, and still everybody involved is like very professional about it. There's never this moment where Ivanova goes like, "Oh my God, my stars! I've accidentally done a faux pas in the social setting," which is great. And if we're like just very briefly on the dating side still, I really love the entire monologue that Ivanova goes on when she receives the flowers, because you can just tell how much of an emotional roller coaster that is for Corvin. First chickening it out and, oh, thank God, she thinks it's stupid. And then she goes on to say, but it's also romantic. There is layers to Ivanova where she has to be mean about whoever made this very stupid decision to give these flowers and still acknowledges. But it is kind of sweet though, so I like the journey this takes him on. But yeah, there is a more serious actual conversation that they have.
Yeah, and once again, and I know that we have a reason why Susan doesn't have a Russian accent, but if she did that, all of that scene with her roses and with welcoming him in a Russian accent, I would have died. It would have been so great. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah. Um, anything more on that?
No, I think you wanted to say something about the more serious conversation they have, right?
Yeah, I wanted to say that. Right. Um, yeah, but no. Okay, yeah. Let's switch to that. Yeah, about the first serious conversation that they're having. Yes, I mean, I think it's the moment where she literally asks him the thing that she wants to know. The reason why she invites him over is to find out um how aware he is of the power that he has in his new position and what he thinks about following orders and about having own kind of values, which is a difficult question when you are in that position where your job literally is to follow orders. But yeah, I think the show always has all of these different plots to kind of point out that even if you are a soldier or a policeman or whatever, you have to follow orders, but you also have to have a sense of what's right and wrong because it might matter in some moments. And they might be for your whole life, and might be hypothetical, but there might be moments where it actually matters. Then order might not be the correct thing to do. And she wants to find out if he is aware of this difference or if he can imagine to act upon it. And I find it interesting also because he responds so naively in that moment. Like he has no idea if such a situation can even happen. It's his job to follow orders. That is good for Earth. He does not have the right all the time to question. And I think the dangerous thing here is that he might even be right, because when you are at that end, you are on a space station or whatever, and you receive an order that is actually confusing for you, and you might not have the time to find out if it's correct or not. You just have to act quickly, and so he's not even wrong about that. But yeah, I think that is a very interesting and very important moment, and I think you can add things soon. My point being is that when I first watched it, I was not really sure what Ivanova's conclusion would be of that moment. So the response that he has given is that did he disqualify him for being trusted, or is he just biased and just lacked experience? I wasn't sure how she understood that, so I would be interested in what you think.
I think the naivety that you point out is exactly right. The key thing for me is in this conversation, he never makes a distinction between being on the side of Earth and being on the side of Earth Dome. He really has this thing of, well, I want to be loyal to Earth and to humanity, and the government represents that, so I'm just going to follow their orders. And there's not really a conversation or a thought in his mind that maybe the values that he's sworn his oath to are not represented by the government that is currently there. And
Yes, and
go ahead.
I just want to throw in a throwback to the last episode that we discussed. I think it was in the last episode where Sheridan said that there is a distance in respecting an office and the person who's actually holding it at the moment. So the position you can respect and be loyal to, but the person who holds it might be a different thing. Yeah, and she was trying to find out if he is actually aware of that difference. Yeah.
And the other thing, what he falls into is this saying, well, I don't think I could make this decision on my own, right? Which is, it in general, I think a pretty good mindset to have, to say like, oh, if I get into a situation where I have a lot of responsibility and I have to make a decision that involves many people's lives, I probably shouldn't make that just on my own. I want to have other people to rely on, but and I mean, that makes sense that he's not being used to be in a more high-ranking position. He really only relies on the people up the chain of command to make good decisions for him, and he doesn't really have this network. Which I think, back to your point, Layla, it makes me question how Ivanova interprets that, because maybe the solution to this could be, okay, let me show you that there is actually a network, a support network of people here on the station that you can weigh decisions with without just blindly relying on what's dictated from above, and at the same time not having to make all these decisions on your own. But it's also very hard for Ivanova to get specific about that without revealing too much. So it's a difficult job she was given.
Yes, but also I think, I mean, he's rather young and he's only making his first experience with Canada and that job. So I also think maybe sometimes because she was, I mean, she had to act so careful, but also because she was acting so careful, I was thinking that maybe just putting this idea into his head that these situations might occur. She also doesn't know at the moment where or why, but these situations might occur. Just also to, start his thoughts and to just, because I like this concept of once the ideas out there, a person kind of has to deal with that idea, have these ideas. Maybe it's also looking to start this kind of process within him. Okay, now she sounds like a master manipulator. That's not what I mean, but I think you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It's interesting, and it speaks for the quality of the show that it was a kind of light and sitcom and aspect of an episode, but it has this kind of serious aspect in it. Yeah, I think that really speaks for very good writing.
And we can
Definitely.
we can definitely also keep an eye on how this will develop, right? In the next few episodes, we will probably see if Ivanova and Sharon try to approach Corvin further, or if they decide, no, this man is definitely not ready for any of this. We'll have to see where this goes.
Yeah.
Do we want to continue with the conclusion of the dating plot, because there's this little bit at the end? Otherwise, we might lose it later on.
Yeah, we have to do it right now.
Practically, it's we have to mention the exchange of between Franklin and Marcus between their captured time, because for some reason Marcus has to talk about right at this moment about Ivanova, and if she has a problem with him, and if he could do anything to try again. Which, then later leads to a comment from Franklin to Ivanova, and she thinks, oh, yeah, Marcus is the one who gave me the roses. And I really, really loved it when she was going there with absolute determination, throwing the roses beside him, just passing after behind his back, while shouting, "Yeah, you can keep them." And Marcus is like, "Oh, I have a chance."
It's so good that her outburst is so on brand that it's completely valid for Marcus to interpret as positive, even though it's not meant that way. Um, I also I love how profoundly unhelpful Franklin is in this entire affair. Even when Marcus mentions it at first, Marcus says, "Well, I dealt with Ivanova at first and she was completely friendly, and then she suddenly started blowing me off so much." And Franklin's response to this is, "Oh well, she just takes a while to warm up to people." And that's the opposite of what Marcus just described. That is not a helpful response to this. So I think it's fitting that for one, both Franklin isn't the right person to ask about interpersonal things. All of his relationships have been a complete disaster. And on the other hand, yeah, Franklin is really much more focused on being captured, weird parasites, other things happening on the station. But it's so fitting for Marcus to be preoccupied with this, and his entire reasoning, well, I'm in this cage, I have nothing else to do, I might as well sort my relationship out, because if I get out of here, that's very important to me. It's a good pairing, these two, and I'm glad that see it.
Yes, I definitely loved that these two went to down below, and not Marcus and Garibaldi.
Yeah, Garibaldi, who is thoroughly uninterested in all of this happening.
Yes. We have to take a minute to talk about Garibaldi's reaction to all of this, because it's like a typical stupid cop reaction, but in a moment, because I want to get back to the roses actually. Because I was thinking about the roses, and I was thinking on why on earth Marcus would say that now that she threw the roses at him, oh, I still have a chance. I was thinking about it because there's this toxic narrators in dating that if a boy teases you, he likes you, or if people react strongly to you, like people would not react strong to you if they didn't care about you and things like that. And it's sometimes it's kind of toxic, but it's also kind of true because yes, you don't react to someone, you just like, well, you exist, whatever. But I was thinking that it also kind of, and then I was thinking that it's kind of cute that she gives the roses back to him, because it's like you can keep it, but she doesn't throw them out. And I was thinking of the proverb that we have in German actually. If you reject someone who is interested in you, you give them. We say jemandem einen Korb geben, so it means like you give him back the basket, and that actually comes from a tradition like in the early modern period where if a man was interested in a woman, he would put a basket of flowers in front of her doorstep. And if she was interested in him as well, she would take the basket inside. But if she was not interested, she would take the flowers and give him back the empty basket. It literally comes from that. So I find it rather cute that she does not just, that she gives him back the flowers and everything. It's like, yeah, I don't need it, but you can have it. She didn't throw it completely out. And I don't know, I like these little gestures that the roses are not wasted. Yeah.
Yeah, but on the other side, I find it quite fitting or understanding why Marcus thinks that that was her intention. Because if you do not know Ivanova that well, you might get the idea that I mean she's mostly this tough woman. She's she's in a high position. She has to be tough, and that the idea is, oh, she's always like that. And if you do not know her well enough or can't think of her in as a woman that gets softer in this kind of situation, if she likes someone that it's a bit, I think in the Japanese it would be called a tsundere type, and I kind of understand why Marcus would think that this is Ivanova's intention there.
I mean, it's kind of this thing. If you ask me to imagine how would Ivanova approach a relationship that she is interested in, throwing roses at the guy is pretty high on that list, honestly. I don't know how to imagine a normal interaction with her.
Yeah, from her reaction, I also couldn't tell what that means, honestly. Like, it did not seem completely disinterested. That's also what I would take.
And it's also this thing, like the one romantic interest that we've seen with her was with Talia, who she spent most of her life fighting with. So there's definitely also this angle of this can still work for Marcus. There's definitely an opening there if you want to go on that.
Before we talk about the weird parasite cells, can we talk about Garibaldi?
Yeah.
Because I had a moment where I wanted to fucking punch him. And that was just, I think this moment when Marcus approaches him and just tells him that there are people acting weirdly, people and down below, and it's just that Garibaldi literally said that he needs more. Like, there has to be more happening. There has to be really like a crime or an actual threat to more people, um, for him to act. And I think that this is so terrible because I think this is just typical. Like, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I would say that this is just typical like police behavior. It's not about prevention. It's not about recognizing difficult situations. It's just about coming over when blood has already been spread and just arresting people, which is not helpful. Like, just that you cannot that there's definitely something going on there, and the cop is just like, yeah, I'll come back when people are dead and I can arrest someone. Like, it's so frustrating.
Yeah, and the problem is that he adds that he doesn't have the time while he is basically shopping. Where I was sitting here, shut the fuck up and do your bloody job.
There is
Yeah.
there is a beautiful little stretch of this episode where we see kind of the parallel of Marcus on the one side unofficially sort of noticing that something is wrong because he has just friends down there, like Duncan, who I really love. They have like such few scenes, but the show is so good at establishing exactly like this is the Babylon 5 Marcus sees, and it is this once again a dingy fantasy town full of taverns and little shops and markets and bazaars, and it's great that we get to see so much interaction with the lurkers where they are just people that have shops and that pay for stuff and that are not like drug crazed criminals like last episode kind of. um that's great. And in parallel, we also see that Franklin takes note that something is wrong. There is like this big meeting that we get to see of, oh, there's multiple med labs on the station. There's, an entire little council of doctors, and they notice that people are acting strangely and that stuff is happening. So we get to see that, oh yeah, the official channels of Babylon 5 exist, and they do notice that something is wrong, and security isn't a part of that. Security isn't useful for this in any way. And it's an interesting question, like, is it enough for Garibaldi's job just to be arresting people? Because then in such situations, he's just not very helpful most of the time. But then if we try to have other people take on this job, like the Med Bay, they have so many other responsibilities that they're very slow picking up on this. So we need the team up of Franklin
Yes,
and
but
Marcus to do this.
Yes, but no, I would say that it definitely is the job of security or of the police or whoever to be there when things get weird and to not just wait for a disaster to happen. Because I mean, when there is a kind of threat, a threat to people in any way, they should know what to do, and they should also know how. Yeah, and they should know how to de-escalate situations before they actually fully arise. And it just drove me really furious, this whole conversation with Garibaldi, because I mean, I haven't really needed the police often in my life, actually, especially personal. But whenever through someone that I know I've had to do with police, it was fucking annoying because they literally do not want to come over until you have a knife in your back. And it's so annoying. And I live in Germany, where I think it's better than in other places on earth. So yeah, really, 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 really annoying. And um, yeah, yeah.
No, I mean, this
Let's
is
end
Annoying.
with that and go to the parasites.
yes, the parasites that um, at first to me have kind of this cultish feeling almost like if you describe to me, oh, there's a bunch of disenfranchised people and they start talking about having a higher purpose and they all move to the same compound and then they start giving all their money, pooling it up and doing their weird little chants and stuff, that all just seems like, oh, there's probably a weird cult leader there, which we probably will see later on in this show at some point. But in this case, no, it's aliens doing that. But there is definitely this kind of mystical angle to it, which is, I think, most interesting also from Marcus's perspective, because he seems like that seems like there is the biggest conflict. There is even later on this actual conversation that he has where he says, "Well, I thought I gave you guys purpose. Why do you turn to somebody else?" And I think that's very interesting because the Rangers are also kind of a cult-like organization with their robes and mantras and stuff. So it's a nice juxtaposition.
Yeah, I think I find this motive of purpose very interesting. Because yeah, no, this leads a bit far. Yeah, maybe I just pass it other further side. Maybe I will find space for it here. Um, um, I find it interesting how he describes that this is a purpose that comes from within. And I mean that this purpose kind of comes from within is already a result of that he merged with this kind of parasite, because if the parasite would not literally live in his nervous system, it would be a purpose from the outside, just as the Rangers are.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's a difficult problem, because as soon as these two as this merge, it's difficult to have your own. You don't have your own judgment anymore. You have a shared judgment and everything.
Yes, absolutely. There is this. I mean, for one, it's a funny pun that the purpose comes from the inside because the parasite is inside of you. I find that nice, but it definitely has also this. They gave this entire speech, which reminds me a lot of like the Blade Runner speech at the ending of it. I've seen things that you couldn't even imagine, and it's like talking about, oh, we have this big purpose that is like from deep history where we come from, and that this is somehow, that it is good described as something from within, even though the Rangers rely on a lot of the same ideas. The Rangers are also based on, this prophecy and religious themes to it. So it's a fascinating take, I think.
It's really, it just melts my brain even more that you brought up Blade Runner when you talk about purpose, because in this last speech in that film, I mean, I struggle with that whole film and with that book, I struggle with that a lot. But always in this last speech, I'm sitting there and I was like, what purpose? What are you talking about? It's just a blur in my head. Yeah, but this whole thing of purpose is so interesting to me, because now I can bring it actually. I think what I wanted to say fits in the end, because I mean, here at the museum where I'm working at the moment, where I'm doing this internship thing, we had a lot of training about mental health and mental health awareness, because it's a museum for like health and science related topics. So they work on these topics a lot, and I was allowed to do all of these trainings. And I found it interesting that we had also more recent studies that I knew this fact from when I was in university. I studied it, but we had more recent studies that in a lot of mental illnesses actually um, a result out of the symptoms that you have is an increased search for a purpose. And it's different kind of mental illnesses that give you this. Like, it is also common in people with depression, in different, not exactly in that depressive state, but in the phases around, to have an increased need for purpose. And that also correlates with actually starting very wonderful things, like, people who volunteer a lot, or artists, or people, or writers, and philosophy, and also like in scientists. That is the thing, actually. We have the empirical data for that. And so it was just a really weird thought to sit there and just and I don't know if I like that perspective on it, but it was a weird thought to sit there and be like, okay, so all of these things that make life so wonderful, like novels that were written or scientific breakthroughs that were achieved, are literally just like a side effect of the brain chemistry being so fucked up that you're there like, suddenly I need another purpose. And it's a really weird perspective on people, actually. And the same goes for something like people who are on the way to develop psychosis, also suddenly have this like be like they were born to do something special. And it's just yeah, I think it's an important information to have in mind, because I think in any way, whether it is mental health or whether it is cult leaders or whatever you're talking about, giving people purpose or people looking for purpose can lead to wonderful things, but it's just a rather ambivalent motive, I would say. But also, yeah, I think it's just so difficult, because without this need for purpose, so many wonderful things that belong to being human just wouldn't exist. You know what I mean?
I think so, and I think it's a very ambivalent thing also when we apply it to this episode, because on the one hand, I think there is this really hopeful message in there, right? That the Vendrisi are kind of showcasing, we have all these lurkers on the station, all these people that so far we've seen as, criminal and violent and such, and they're saying, well, there's not really anything fundamentally wrong with them. Their bodies might be sick, they might be full of drugs and stuff, but if you can just get rid of that, if you can just impart all of this knowledge, if you kind of, with a push of a button, give them purpose and all the knowledge and stuff, that fixes them, right? And I think on one hand, this is a really cool message to showcase. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with these people. There's nothing irredeemable about these people. On the other side, it also has a little bit of this taste. It leaves a bit of this taste in my mouth of, oh, if they just gain some perspective, they can pull themselves up by the bootstraps, which, the lurkers are there because they don't have any money, and you can't magically fix that by showcasing them something inspirational. But I think there is something good in there about, if you give people the opportunity and they can take it, it fixes a lot of these issues. And it's a choice that this is not happening. This is not lurkers don't have to be there. It's not like an unfixable situation.
I have to
Yeah,
say, I
I
was
would rather.
hooked up on the whole story with Duncan. I put a bit maybe the others in the background, because for me it felt more like the story of a man who was sick, that was in a position where he knew this would be probably lead to his end. I think there was a moment where he also said that he thought he would die on the station. Um, and for me, in the end of the episode, we have him. It seems like he's healed. Um, and the way he is responding to Marcus, like, hey, it was not your fault that things happened how they happened. Um, for me, it felt like the thing he got out of this situation was hope,
Yes.
energy to move on. He was like, yeah, maybe I fight this, what I was shown, maybe I won't, but I'm interested in the world. I'm interested to be part of it again. I want to see something. I want to do something. And the connection to this, to the sickness and his I thought I would die on the station. That was something that felt really strongly for me. Like, yeah, like the important part for me in this whole parasite thing, because he got maybe out of some sort of depression, but the initial thing was his sickness, to me.
There was definitely like a combination of these, right? Because there is a sickness that prevents him from going there, but then also the stubbornness of, I don't like to be prodded by doctors, even if the clinic is free. It's like kind of this resignation to the fact that, yeah, the solutions that I have just aren't, they are very uncomfortable, and they're probably not going to work, and they're gonna get expensive eventually and stuff like that. And now
I
suddenly
think
is
the
is
I think the important of maybe this is just me reading into this, but it felt the way he acted more to me more like he was like, yeah, it won't do anything good anyway. Like the typical thing older people say, yeah, I don't need a doctor, to reassure the people around them, because they inward think, yeah, there is no cure, there's no help anyway, it will only get worse. So I won't do anything, because at least this way I have maybe a few more pleasant days, or I have my pride, my honor, whatever, and this sort of thing.
which I guess then also makes sense that they chose this as an older character than we often see on Babylon 5, because it's definitely an easy mindset to get into after a certain age, when most of the doctor visits will just tell you that yeah, there's just some things that are not going to get better. Like after a certain age, your joints and your bones and your muscles just aren't gonna improve fundamentally anymore. It's just deterioration at some point. There was something else that I had in mind, and now it's completely escaped me. Uh, uh, Probably not that important then, but Layla, did you have something?
Uh, no, I don't think. I mean, I still have some thoughts on the topic that we had before, but I think actually I'm too tired to bring them out.
I remember what I had on Duncan still. Uh, I think this is something very uniquely Babylon 5 about this entire story. I think in any other sci-fi universe, even in Stargate, if a Goa'uld, or I think before we get comments on that, we should probably acknowledge Tok'ra are the good guy symbiotes that you get in Stargate that try to impart wisdom and knowledge and stuff like that.
I was thinking about what were they called? What were they called? Yeah,
Yeah,
but
but they
yeah.
have those too. But if in Stargate, the Tok'ra tell me, oh my God, we have knowledge and memories of amazing planets like paradisic worlds and fantastic places, it would kind of be like, oh yeah, we saw this last week, right? Like we see a godlike being in every other Star Trek episode as well. But Babylon 5 is this universe that is set apart, and we've mentioned this especially in season 1 a few times, that it's kind of more of our world. People are still sick, people are still poor, politicians are still corrupt. The station is kind of just a big city. We have this entire episode where Franklin gets a visitor from the past who is very disappointed in this future because it is borderline dystopian. This is a universe where it's very easy to be on a spinning space station and still feel like, what does this world really have to offer, right? Like there is not much magic here. And I think what Duncan gets is just a confirmation there is wondrous stuff out there. This thing that Marcus constantly seems to have, this like literally thinking about all of this as a big adventure. This is something that the Vendrisi can show that, yeah, everything is kind of drab and it looks suspiciously like 1980s, 1984 most of the time on the station. But there is a cool space adventure still out there. You can go there and get this, which I think is a very positive message, because I think this applies also a lot to kind of this modern day sentiment of, we're not really in the age of explorers anymore and we can't go to space yet. So you're just in the most boring part of the timeline, when in reality, no, there is great adventures that you can have in the world. You just kind of need to seek them out, as in any other epoch.
Yes, but now there is a connection to make, I think, to all of this purpose talk that we had before, because I think to seek out all of these adventures, you kind of have to be looking for it. You kind of have to be searching, and then you end up as these people who are looking for a purpose, and then you are somewhere on the spectrum of, are you just really trying to provide inspiration and to see how inspirational and interesting and adventurous our world actually is? Or are you tomorrow being seen walking barefoot through the snow, thinking you're some kind of wandering priest? I mean, it's like I feel it's what I just want to say. I mean, this sounded ridiculous, but what I just want to say is that when, for example, we had these like mental health training and we were talking about it, all of these recent studies on looking for purpose in between different episodes, I was thinking, and that comes back to this looking for something special. I was just thinking, mm, like depression is definitely a serious illness that needs all of this kind of attention. But I think that, yeah, I think that this motivation to go out and to look for it and to hope for wonders and to find these little wonders, um, just because it increases when someone also has this other aspect. I still don't think it's bad. You know what I mean? Like we still cannot sit there and look at these like other side of the coin and be like, so yes, a healthy, functional person is not looking for adventures and purpose and things like that. I think that would be terrible. And so that's just yeah, what I find so interesting and so ambivalent about purpose, because as you said, in the Babylon type universe, you can just live your life, you can go to work and do your taxes and not see all of these wonders. Um, yeah, then there's just the question of how do we understand and interpret people who who do look for this? And also, how do we catch them before they make a bad decision and end up as the lurkers? Which I also think as a society is our responsibility. Yeah.
And you know who I have to think of now, especially now that you describe it in this way? There is one guy that we met who would be the perfect candidate to take on Evandrisi. And I'm thinking all the way back to Jinxo and his search for the Holy Grail. Because I think that was an episode which, less eloquently, but I think it was kind of interrogating this question, right? Like, how do you take a guy like Jinxo, who definitely had like some trauma going on and probably something more, and was like on this verge of slipping into lurker life, and then was saved to some degree by finding somebody who has purpose. And listen, if you're looking for the Holy Grail, merging with an alien species that has knowledge from all across the universe, from all through history, I think that would be pretty darn helpful. He would probably find some inkling of something that makes you immortal in there. So that is the spin-off crossover episode that I want to see. I want to see the return of Jinxo with a Goa world in his belly and see where this adventure goes.
Yeah, I mean, what this also shows us that sci-fi and fantasy stories just have these wonderful opportunities to find these like escape routes for people who in real life would probably end up as lurkers or dead or as wandering priests who are literally a threat to other people. And yeah, so here we can have these escape routes that in real life don't always exist. Yeah.
And I think that's a pretty good conclusion for our discussion.
This was a first discussion with all three of us, and I think it's kind of impressive that we managed to do that, although we're very, very far apart at the moment. And even though we have not revived all of it yet, we are on Twitter, we are on X, and on Twitter anymore. We are on Aux, we are on Blue Sky, we are on Mastodon and on Facebook. Of course, you can also find us anywhere where you can find podcasts, but here on YouTube we're the cutest because here you can see us.